Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 3/4/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 71. Um, Today is probably going to be a short video. Um, I am 30% through the Intermediate HTML and CSS, and I am through the concepts section, and now entering into the Intermediate CSS concept section. So moving right along. With that said, let's just get started. Like I said, today's probably going to be a short one, short and sweet. There's nothing to do in the text editor today. Just a little conversation about default styles. It's a pretty light read today. I didn't have a lot of time last night to get into this too much as far as going farther. So I just stuck with just this one module. Keep things simple. So as always, the learning outcomes, you'll learn about different browser styles, and you'll learn how to use CSS to reset or remove or change your default styles. So there's a couple really good articles here. And we'll go over. Let's start off trying this knowledge check. I feel like that flows a little bit better. So the knowledge check says, why would you want to use a CSS reset? Excuse me. And the answer to that is kind of in this paragraph, but basically, in a nutshell, browsers put in their own HTML code and padding, not code. The browsers put in their own styling by default. For instance, like box shadowing, padding. We've seen that before in other exercises that we've done in the past, where like a UL tag will have padding in front of it, in front of the the bulleted list. Buttons have padding around them and margin around them. And the problem is that no browser does it the same way. And unfortunately, there's not like a consortium that says, hey, everybody does it this way. I think they try to do that, and one of the articles in here talks about it, and I'll let you guys read on that. But by and large, there are differences just because they're different companies and we're human. So basically, what this attempts to do is to kind of bridge that gap. So what default styles are is there goes into different CSS. I don't know if you call them libraries. They're basically downloadable files, if you will, that you can add into. You link them as your CSS or put them in your style into your style tag if you want to do inline in your HTML. But basically, what they do is they strip out any of the default browser-specific CSS and kind of wipes the slate clean with a baseline set of CSS, if you will. Easier to work with. It's easier to start with. There's no guesswork because if you're using the one you studied on, because there's 100 different kinds of these things, and you pick one that you like the best, you study it, you learn about the good and the bad and the ugly of it, you use it, and so there you know what baseline you're working with. So so that was a long-winded way of saying why you want to use CSS. So or CSS resets is what they're calling it. So let's go through some of the articles here. So we have a little bit of content here. This article is short, but it's cool because it talks about, this is one of the resets. Pardon me. And this is called Web. This is one of the many. It's one of the popular ones. And it just talks about what it does, who started it, why you started it. It's a fun little read. I'll let you guys read into it. But you see, here's the meat and potatoes of it. So if you don't tweak the file and you just put it in as is, this is what you're going to get. So basically, it's going to zero out and baseline out all these tags that may or may not show up in your HTML. So if they do, they're going to get margin of 0, padding 0, border 0, 100% font size, which means it's just going to be, you know, take on a normal font size, nothing enlarged, nothing small. It's going to inherit its font from the parent, and it's going to baseline the vertical line. And they have some HTML5 display role resets as well. So they, you know, I don't need to read through all this, but this is what it does to some of the tag selectors, if you will, in the CSS. Sorry, I was trying to come up with the right word. Always try to do my best. I'm human, but always try to do my best about using the right terminology for you guys. So anyway, that's that one. The next article goes into about normalizing CSS or about normalized CSS. This is another version. Again, there's many out there, and they're just calling them files. So for this argument of this video, we'll just call them files. So there's a normalized file, and it's modern HTML5 ready alternative to the traditional CSS reset that we just went over. So basically, it builds on the Meyer-Web. I wanted to say Myers-Briggs. I think that's a standardized test in school or something. Anyway, the Myers-Web, it modernizes it, and it's all HTML5 ready. So if you're used to the nuances and the elements and tags and syntax of HTML5, this would be probably a better alternative. I think this is normalized is probably the most, if I read right, I think it's the widest used or the most popular, or both, file used out there. It talks a little overview here about who produced it and why. And this is, everyone has their own advantages. So they define here why they made it the way they made it, why they made the file the way they made it, why they incorporated what features and corrected bugs and improved usability, explained the code, and I like that part. So they use comments and detailed documentation to explain not only what it did, but why they did it. So what it was in the browser with the version, and then they tell you why they changed it, which is cool. So a lot more about that, and then so this is what I was talking about, the comments. This is pretty cool. So number 1, addresses appearance set to search field in S5 Chrome, and that would be this one here. So WebKit appearance text field, and Moz box siding, which is Moz is the Mozilla, so that's for Firefox content box. And then 2, addresses box sizing set to border box in S5 Chrome, including the Moz for future proof, and that's important as well. That's why that's in there. And then this is what we just read, WebKit box sizing, content box, and the 2 just means to go up here and read number 2. And then this part removes inner padding and search cancel buttons in S5 Chrome and on OS X, and that's committed by the WebKit appearance to none. And make sure you remember to not remember if you don't want to, but just keep in mind that if this isn't future proofed, so if the browsers get rid of WebKit support for future versions, this code will break. Just keep in mind you have to update your code if you use this file. And then this is adjusting the search, the input search, as we learned in a couple lessons ago. And again, it's using the WebKits for search decoration and cancel button. And they're showing here as an example of the ugly CSS debugging tool irritation when using resets. Is unfortunately the chain is shown here in your debugger. It just says this is not such an issue with normalized because of the targeted styles and all the conservative use of multiple selectors and rule sets. So the nice thing about it, when you use normalized, you won't have all this crazy nonsense here. You'll have some, but it won't be listed out like that. because it's targeted based on the style sheet that we've seen above, not like, because this is basically CSS Reset, the first article we looked at, where, you know, all this stuff here has been altered. So that's why it's showing up here in your CSS debugging tools, because it's showing as inherited, which is, again, like I said, not so pretty. Again, just talking some more advantages to using it, how to use it. You can download it from GitHub, basically, and then you can customize it any way you want, which is kind of cool. And then they have closing comments. Normalize CSS is significantly different in scope and execution to CSS Resets. It's worth trying it out to see if it fits in your development approach and preference. The project is developed in the open on GitHub, meaning they don't have a private license, so you don't need to ask them for permission to use it or give them credit or funds. It's completely available, free to use, part of the open source. I don't think it's MIT, but it's one of the open source projects. So, and then one of the second to last articles it goes back to CSS tricks. You guys know I particularly am fond of this page or this website. This talks about reboot, resets, and reasoning. Again, they just take a good job of taking a history lesson with you and going back to, there's the Meyer reset we talked about. They talk about some other CSS files, reset files that we didn't talk about. Again, a little more cementing of knowledge we already learned about already. And here's sprinkling throughout this page are plenty of developers who went minimal by just zapping the margin and padding from everything and leaving it at that. So star, as you remember, is all. So everything is padding margin 0, 0. Just a quick little way to get something, I guess a nuclear option, if you will, to get rid of margin and padding on your page. Just remember you have that, because if you ever try to add it in down on your page, down in the code, down farther, you'll run into some issues. And I like this little dumb trivia. CSS Tricks logo was inspired by the universal selector and that idea, so that's kind of cool. So it's not a longer article, I just have it blown up, but it's a good article. Talks about what the word reset means, reboot. I'll let you guys read that. I won't go into all of that, but talks about the browser support, which is kind of cool. And then the last thing that they send you in top is they send you here to maybe more trivial than useful. This browser default style site is fun to play with. It actually is. I bookmarked it and then unbookmarked it because I figured I don't know how often they keep this site up to date, so it may become not relevant. It may be just more of a novelty thing to play with, but like for instance, if you type in body here, so we're searching for a body tag, it will tell you the body tag description of what it is, what is a body tag, the display margin and zoom, and it tells you that if it's standard or not, or what browser is using it. And all these browsers are supportive of it, and I don't know what 112 and 1 means. If you know in the comments, let me know. But that's pretty cool. So that it goes through, and you can look up. There's T-body came up just because body was in that, but then it tells you here what browser supports it, or browsers, even down to the attribute of that tag. So that's cool. So like display table row group is only supported by Safari. So that would be good to know if you're so maybe it is worth bookmarking this, But like I said, whoever developed this has to keep this up to date, otherwise this becomes worthless pretty quick. But it is useful information if you're trying to make using something specific like this, just a reminder that, hey, it's only going to work in Safari, and it's not going to work in any other browser. So something to keep in mind if you're wanting to put that into play. So that's all I have for today. Like I said, 30% complete, and Then next time we go into the CSS units. So hope you guys enjoyed the ride today and came along the journey with me and learned a little bit along the way. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content. And with all that said, till next time, see ya.